The DuJour's CEO, the founder, Jason Binn, interviewed Dennis Rodman for the magazine. He spent 2 hours talking to him. He's here with us in the Situation Room right now. Jason, thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So he believes that his friendship with Kim Jong-un is real and genuine. Does he really believe that based on the impressions you got, or is this all just for publicity for Dennis Rodman?
I think in the beginning, he didn't know what to think, but as time evolved and through his trips, I think he's very confident and convinced that they do have a solid relationship.
Does he understand the threats emanating from North Korea right now, how tense that Korean peninsula is? 1 million North Korean troops along the demilitarized zone, nearly 1 million South Korean troops, 30,000 American soldiers in between. One miscalculation could trigger who knows what?
We approached that question with him on numerous occasions, and he kept saying, I'm not a politician. All I can tell you is what my experiences were. And that's what we did at DuJour's.
And he says he keeps in touch with Kim Jong-un. How does he do that? I mean, it's not as if there's open communications between the United States and North Korea.
He says that he has a direct communication with him.
He didn't explain how that works.
No.
But you got no sense, Jason, that he is backing away from that so-called friendship with the North Korean leader.
He did say this summer that he would go there, and that he was concerned that if he did come back to America or try to come back, they wouldn't let him in. And that was kind of disturbing to him.
Well, here's a quote from the interview in DuJour's magazine. This is Dennis Rodman. The U.S. Treasury, he says, wants to indict me. And I'm like, for what? Treason? They've threatened me. They said I gave his wife a fur coat, a dress. I gave all these gifts. I was like, I did? No, I didn't. Does he understand that the regulations, the Treasury Department regulations, barring U.S. citizens from making gifts to North Korean leaders and that kind of issue? Did you get a sense he understood the ramifications of that?
His focus is that he's not the one giving the gifts, and nor does he want to be known to be that person. And that's what we reported in DuJour's.com.
Does he really believe the U.S. is going to pull his passport and actually indict him for going to North Korea?
He basically said, read between the lines. When I kept asking him, why do you believe that if you come back to America, that you will not be allowed into America? And he said, it's not going to be North Korea's doing, it's going to be America's doing. And I asked him, what do you mean? Where are you going with this? And he said, read between the lines.
So he didn't really spell it out. Give me a little sense of his demeanor. He himself has said he went to rehab, he's got an alcohol problem. How did he seem in the 2 hours you and your team spent with him? What was he like?
We expected to actually have a very short interview. The interview went for around 2 to 3 hours with a photo shoot, and we got video, as you know, and we taped it. He said he went to rehab for more about decompression. He didn't feel like he had a lot of stress and pressure going on, obviously, with everything that happened with his other interviews and his trip, and he just needed to decompress.
Did he seem stable?
He seemed completely stable. He was clear, coherent. He answered every question. Yes.
He clearly wasn't drunk from your impression.
He was not drunk. He was really direct. He gave us straight shooting answers.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the other exclusive DuJour's.com had the other day, and you caused a huge stir, especially here among our viewers in the Situation Room on Friday when you reported on your website part of a conversation. You had a phone conversation with Donald Sterling, the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, in which he said to you, and I'll put it up on the screen, I wish I had just paid her off. Take us behind the scenes. What was going on? How did you alone, Jason Binn, you got to speak to Donald Sterling? He told you all this was on the record. What did he say?
He basically was, obviously this has been a very challenging time for him, and it just came out naturally. He just said, I should have paid her. I wish I paid her off. I should have just taken care of it. And at that point, I knew I had a great quote.
Did he seem remorseful to you at all?
He seems very confused at this point. You know, there's a lot going on. I couldn't really answer that question.
But the impression you walked away with, he's going to fight to try to keep the L.A. Clippers.
I asked him, and it seems what the media has been saying, and the impression, I think, is that that's what's going to happen.
All right, Jason Binn, you two big exclusives in the last few days. Dennis Rodman and Donald Sterling, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Jason Binn joining us here in the Situation Room. Up next, more on the Clippers owner Donald